Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Sidekicked, a Marvel Champions podcast, where we are all about the Allies. We'll teach you who they are in the comics, discuss their card, and what kind of decks they might be played in. I'm one of your hosts, Jason Sketch, and with me today is...
Levi Lewis.
Morning, bud. How are you?
I'm good.
Oh, good.
How are you?
I am doing well, much better than I was last time, where I was sick and feeling crappy and ended up actually taking off of work that day after we got done recording. So I am feeling a lot better.
I'm glad to hear that.
Good. Let's move this awkward train on. So what have you been playing there recently, Levi?
I don't remember if I talked about it last week or not, but I have been playing Adam Warlock. I'm trying to go through the Mad Titan Shadow campaign with Adam Warlock. It has not been successful so far. I thought initially it'd be fun to have a theme style deck at the beginning, and then later, probably the second or third villain completely change it up. But it has not been successful, so I'm probably going to completely change that deck completely up.
Oof.
Because I was like, well, I'm just going to throw a funny deck together, and it should do just fine, because the first villain's normally super easy. That's not the case here.
I mean, you are fighting the Black Order, and Ebony Maw is one of the key players in the Black Order. So, I am sorry you had so much trouble, my friend.
I mean, it's been interesting. I've also been mowing my lawn a lot.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's been raining quite a bit in Texas, so, that prevents us from, it's, I guess, a good problem to say it's been raining in Texas, because usually when you hear about Texas, the rain isn't a conversation that happens, so.
Yeah, it rains 2 times a year here.
Yeah, not this year. We've got a stupid amount of rain recently, and I moved to Texas, frankly, because I was sick of rain, and here we are.
So what have you been playing there, Jason?
I honestly haven't. If I'm completely honest, the last game I actually played was a game called Everdell, and it's a game where you're building a city for cute little animal creatures and such. It has nothing to do with Marvel Champions, but it was I got to play with my wife, so that was fun to play a board game that way. Really, if I'm all honest, I got sick that last time I recorded, and I have not done anything Marvel Champions related in a little while. So, trying to get back on that train of feeling better and playing games and moving, and it's just been a long trek. I honestly, this week was the first time I did anything Marvel Champions related, aside from recording this podcast, of course. I put out my episode for the Cable Dossier, which is something similar to the podcast in the sense of I talk about their comic book history and background of a hero, and then try to discuss their hero kit a little bit in the video, and I try to keep that video within 10 minutes. So hopefully it's not too terribly long, but something enjoyable to go back and check out. So tried some new things with this dossier as well. So I tried to make it feel like you were zooming into the actual file, and then also the pages were turning. So I thought it was pretty neat, but I'd love to hear you guys just jump into the YouTubes and check it out. Let me know what you guys think. I want to improve those and make them better, and something that people can go back and look at and go, yes, this information's helpful for me to understand the character that I'm playing. But yeah, I'm still waiting on Silk and Shuri to come in. Hopefully by the time we record our next episode, we can at least have a little bit of a discussion on one of those heroes and our thoughts on that as well. But unfortunately, my local game stores have been having trouble getting it on time. I'm just bummed that I haven't received my copy yet. So,
I mean, you could borrow one of mine because I have both of them.
that's true. Have you had a chance to play either one of them yet?
No, I've been playing Adam
Oh,
Warlock.
okay. That's a good question. Before we jump into our next awesome topic, when you get a new hero pack, and I'm not talking about usually the question turns into do you play the pre-con or not, and that I think we've had that discussion before. But do you wait a while before you play the new character, Or do you just jump right in as soon as you get the box?
I normally wait. I'm excited to get the cards with the set. I'm normally not super stoked to play a hero. I know I've said it before. The only one that I've ever just opened up and played right away was Magneto. That's the only one I've ever done that with because I was super excited with him because I know how powerful he is and everything, and I loved everything that he was able to do. And he does like he played so beautifully. It was awesome. Like I have a video where I built a deck where it's just basic cards and he still played amazing. So I think you cannot build a bad Magneto deck.
I agree with that.
But to answer your question, no, typically I don't. I almost never do that. Normally what I'll do is I'll open the set and I'll separate all of my cards into where I think that they should go in all of my stuff.
That's valid. It depends on the hero, right? Like I think as I've gotten older hero kits, I'll take a look at a couple that like I'm excited about. So like when Gambit came in, I played Gambit because I like Gambit. Rogue was the same thing. But then like Miss Marvel, I sat on for a while before I picked her up and played her. I think I got Vision. Boom Guy, if you're listening, please forgive me. I've not even opened his kit yet. I've gotten the cards out of his kit, and I have not even touched the actual hero yet. So that's something I have plans on doing, and I have a series of trying out new heroes that I want to try out. And new to me heroes, let me say that. Some of these heroes have been around for a long time. But like last year when Iceman and Nightcrawler came out, I opened their packs, and I pretty much played them almost straight out of the box. I modified their precons and just kind of tested them out from there, and I enjoyed doing that. I've been hoping to do that with Silk, but we'll just see what comes of it. So I have not ordered Shuri at this point in time yet, though I'm seeing some pretty cool cards in there now that I'm like, I do not want to wait for some of those Justice cards. So were you surprised that Shuri came with Justice over another aspect or Silk?
This is a good question. This is a great question. I'm glad you asked this question because this is something that I was really confused with because, yeah, I fully believed when I was looking at her cards, I was like, why did she come with Justice? Because her whole thing is using her basic abilities. And if she's defending, which, yeah, like part of it is you want to flip down with her to get a lot of her cards out. But at the same time, if you have all of her cards out, you want to use all of her basic cards or her basic abilities.
Hero kit cards?
So no, her basic like her basic attack and basic.
Oh, gotcha.
Because her whole thing is like once you do that, then you can activate one of your other like upgrades, and so I think it's just upgrades, like her card upgrades, and so you don't want to be defending with her. So it would make sense to build a deck with her in protection.
Now, does it specify basic attack or basic thwart?
If I remember right, it says basic, any of her basic abilities.
So if you're defending and you're using your basic defense to defend, you should be able to kick that off. So after Black Panther uses a basic power, resolve the special ability on one of her Black Panther upgrades you control. So she would be great in protection because you are defending, which would then kick off one of her special abilities.
But still, that's what I'm like. Sure, yeah.
Is that what you're trying to say?
But protection. Yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to say. Yep. But no, yeah, I think it would have been better if she had come with protection because to me it would just make more sense. But that's just me.
That's valid. I mean, I already knew when they were releasing, they kind of announced what aspects came with which hero and all that kind of fun stuff. And they've talked about it in the past where they go, here's our 4 heroes in a wave, and they're talking about it before they even release information to us, and they have to go, we want to make sure each aspect gets represented, so who's getting what aspect, kind of a thing. And so sometimes they're like, yeah, the hero gets an aspect in their precon that doesn't necessarily make sense to their kit, but it's just kind of where it fell. Or it's not the most optimal, not make sense, not most optimal, I guess is the better phrasing.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I get that, but at the same time, like, I'm still just like, nah. But anyways.
It is interesting to me that she comes in the shield wave and does not have the shield trait or anything that allows her to get the shield trait in her kit. She's got all this Wakanda tech, and you're like, cool. And then you scroll down to her aspect cards, and it's all like Avengers and Shield. I think she's got her allies are all Wakanda traded. So Manifold, and then the Doma Milaje, which we'll have to talk about at some point because I think that would be really cool to kind of just discuss and walk through them. But the rest of her kit is pretty much Shield traded. I mean, no, not specifically Shield traded, I guess. So, but it's still Shield themed, and so just I thought that was interesting. But
Yeah, she's definitely different.
yeah, it'd be fun to keep checking her out and just keep. Hopefully, we'll have a better idea of what she's like. Hopefully, you'll get a chance to test her out, and I'll be wrong on her kit. I just was not inspired by it at all when I first saw it. So, but it is new, so testing it out at least once or twice is not a bad deal.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
What about you? What do you think?
About what?
I don't know.
Think about the aspects and stuff coming out that are just different.
Sure.
Is that what we
sure.
were talking about? I mean, I think
It's not in the notes, so I have no idea what we're talking about.
I think the question we were talking about is it odd? What do you think about just Shuri or Silk or even Heroes just coming with surprising aspects? You'd assume they become with a certain one and then show up with a different one. And I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it just opens up doors for more aspect cards. It just makes it harder for some of the beauty of the game where you're like, hey, you like the hero George Lucas? Why don't you go buy his hero pack and walk over and open it up and you can play with us right here and now, you know? If it's clunky, right? So people have said that historically Miss Marvel's original kit is rather clunky when you open it straight from the box, but so you have to build the deck to modify her.
If George Lucas had a set, it would be a sellout set.
Yeah?
Yeah, he'd sell out to Disney.
Well, I guess so. In other ally-related news, just looking at her kit here before we move on to our next thing, I'd love to talk about, at some point, the Show of Empathy and Redemption upgrade. So Show of Empathy side scheme and the Redemption upgrade, where you can essentially create a minion to become an ally. And so I think that would be a neat conversation for us to have on this ally-focused podcast. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you can't tell, we don't have Earth Twister here to keep us on track, so we'll see what's next on our show notes here. And by the time this releases, if you have not seen this movie, I pity the fool, but I feel like by the time this releases, hopefully we'll have plenty of folks have seen this movie and will have enjoyed it. But this past weekend, I went and saw Thunderbolts.
I saw it before you. I saw it on opening day. Ha 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 ha. But I believe that most of our audience is like us. They're a bunch of cool, nerdy people, and I'm sure most of them have seen it by now, by the time this episode releases.
So I guess it's okay at this point.
So let me tell you my thoughts on Thunderbolts. Spoilers. This is the spoiler part where you want to skip. So this is the part. I liked the movie. I thought it was very interesting how they were definitely going in different directions. I thought it was funny though. I will say this because this is a big spoiler. How they win at the end of the movie. They win the fight by the power of friendship. And I was surprised. It was so much like that I was surprised that who's it? Dom Toretto and his whole gang from the Fast and Furious films didn't come out and join them. The power of friendship and family.
Just seeing that muscle car fly over the back of the... Ooh.
By the power of friendship, we win! Haha. Like that's literally what I was telling myself. I was walking out of the theater. By the power of friendship.
But were they really friends? I mean,
they were trying. They were trying.
Acquaintances.
Well, Yelena was trying to be. Everybody else was just doing. Basically, everybody else was just doing
whatever they wanted.
And the Red Guardian just The Red Guardian just kept calling themselves the Thunderbolts, and everybody was like, please stop. Please stop. Please stop.
I think Red Guardian just wants to be a part of something, and I can relate to that. I feel like if I had met the Red Guardian in real life, in the state that we know him now, right, he and I would be buddies. I would go to his house to play Marvel Champions, just to be his friend. For the glory.
You kind of look like the Red Guardian.
I have been told that I look like the Red Guardian. That is,
Can you do the voice?
Da? How could I not do the voice? It's for the glory. Yelena! I've been busy. Thank you so much for coming for the visit. That's what I talk about. I think I do okay.
Are you a part of the new event, the Avengers with the Z?
Avengers. He's not copyrighted. It says Avengers with a Z. If you can't.
Yeah, I laughed. I laughed so hard at him. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh man, he's hilarious. I think it's funny to see the actor being so eccentric, and then turning around and watching like Stranger Things, where he's very much like a straight-laced. It just shows his acting skills, and even like in all of the. I was just thinking about it the other day. I was watching some of the ads they're putting out on Instagram. They're trying to push their movie right now, and he is just chill. There is not this eccentric, loud, in-your-face hero. He's just like, yeah, hey, I'm here to advertise the movie. I hope you go see it. Like it's just kind of like a straight-faced, like, do you really care if I go? You kind of just seem meh. But that's not the case.
So I have a Stranger Things theory about him, about the Red Guardian. So in Stranger Things, another spoiler alert, he gets transported to Russia.
Ooh, yes.
My theory is that he gets transported to Russia, they give him the serum, he becomes the Red Guardian, and he goes back to America as a spy, as you see in The Black Widow.
Oh. That is pretty cool. I think he would.
And I came up with that.
Yeah?
I didn't read that anywhere. I came up with that. So now you know, Internet, where it came from.
Where it came from. He made it up. So you're the one who kicked it off for us then.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this for a while.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't just think of it today. I was like, you know what? I think Hopper is the Red Guardian. What's his real name? I mean, what is his real name? Like in...
Alenki or something like that?
Alexa.
Alexi.
It's Alexa.
Alexi.
Alexi,
yeah. Alexa. Yeah. That's Amazon. Alexa. You're going to kick off somebody's poor Alexa.
Alexa, who is Alexi?
Oh, gosh. I think it's a great theory. It's a fun theory. I do think it's funny that he he pretty much filmed Black Widow and then ended up being in Russia as Hopper, and now he's back as a Thunderbolt and Thunderbolts as a Russian character again. So he may just be a secret Russian spy all along.
How do you feel about the Fantastic Four?
I don't know yet. The movie at the time of this recording has not come out. I'm looking forward to the Fantastic Four. I'm kind of curious how it's going to be, almost like a different time displacement, if that makes sense. So we're not going to be in, like, most of our movies have kind of sat in that modern time frame. They've kind of sat in that same sliding scale that the comics do of, okay, the times are this now, so we're going to kind of sit in that same time frame. And to go and watch something that kind of looks like it's taking place in the 60s?
It's the 60s, but the future.
Yeah, it's just, I'm not sure how I feel about it yet. I feel like they've done a good job because picking a Johnny Storm that's going to replace Chris Evans. I think they've done a good job there.
Who was also in Stranger Things.
What?
Yeah, Johnny Storm. He was the guitar ripping dude.
He's
him.
Eddie?
Yeah, yeah, he's Eddie.
Stop. He's not.
The leader. He is. He is the leader of the Hellfire Club. You did not know that. You heard
he
it
is
here
like,
on
oh my gosh.
Sidekicked.
No way.
You heard it here. Jason just found out the truth. He's Eddie, bro. So that ties even more into Stranger Things. He got sent off into another dimension and becomes Johnny Storm.
Oh my god.
See, another theory. Boom.
I am researching this. There's no way.
I am so surprised you did not know that. It's hard to recognize him as anybody else because he doesn't have the super long hair. But it's him, bro. It's him.
Oh my gosh.
Tell me I'm right.
You're right. He's also in A Quiet Place.
Yeah,
Day one.
He's in the prequel. Yeah, the prequel, A Quiet Place. Yeah,
Dude, he is a phenomenal actor. I didn't even recognize him in A Quiet Place Day one.
yeah. It's hard to recognize him because he doesn't have the long hair. Like when he doesn't have that super long hair wig. Well, I'm assuming it was a wig. When he doesn't have that, like it's hard to tell that that's the same guy.
He's in a lot of just smaller roles.
Yeah,
he was in Game of Thrones, for an episode.
Yeah, I don't talk about Game of Thrones, but yeah, he's super cool.
It looks like he kind of did a bunch of small roles up till Stranger Things, and then that kind of kicked him off to do some bigger projects.
Bigger stuff. Yeah. Because he was so good in Stranger Things.
Yeah, he was phenomenal in Stranger Things.
Yeah, as Eddie.
I cried.
I loved his part.
Oh man,
I love this part. I love the whole story arc of him playing freaking
guitar.
the Metallica song. Yeah, that part was so cool.
Oh man. I enjoyed the Thunderbolts. Let's get back on topic here. I guess the new Avengers, if you don't know at this point,
With the Z. It's not copyrighted.
Not copyrighted. Overall, like the plot, right? At first I was like, I just don't know how this plot's going to come together. I feel like the Thunderbolts in the past have been that Suicide Squad type feel, so I was afraid Marvel was going to do something similar. Where they're going to have like Yelena and Sebastian Stan, Winter Soldier, come in and kind of lead a team of villains. And I find it amusing, and I really hope this kind of happens in the movies. This is a side note, but Natasha Romanoff, Black Widow, and Winter Soldier actually get together in the comics. And I'm kind of hoping now that Natasha's out of the way that he just ends up with Yelena. But we'll see. That is a secret desire of Jason Sketch. But the movie itself, I felt like the plot did really well. They brought in all these anti-heroes, these side characters, people like Ghost, who barely had any lines in her movie, barely rememberable. And then we all kind of remember Red Guardian from Black Widow, but it's not a highly talked about movie. Not that it wasn't a good movie, just people just don't know it existed. They really screwed over Scarlett Johansson with that movie.
They really did. What do you feel? What do you feel about what happened with Taskmaster? How do you feel about that?
I don't know, because I went back recently and watched Black Widow with my wife because she had not seen it. She was one of the few that said, "Oh well, no, it went straight to Disney Plus. So it was just a bad movie." No, that's not the case. They screwed her over.
That's not what
So we watched it recently, and I was like, actually, they did a decent job at the beginning of Black Widow representing Taskmaster and how he functions, even though it's a she in the movies. And we'll get into that. I like being comic book accurate, so whatever they are in the comics, I'd like to see them that way in the movies. That's beside the point. I thought it was clever how they brought her in the movie. I thought it was clever how they represented her. But then at the end of that movie, she was like defeated pretty quickly, and I was like, oh, okay. And so for her to die off pretty fast, I just feels like, oh, this non-really memorable character that they advertised a ton about dies within the first few minutes of the movie. Okay, let's just move on.
I was in that scene. I was super stoked to see Taskmaster fight because the way that they fought was accurate.
Right.
Like they were fighting like the others were, like using their styles, and I was like, that was so cool to see that. And then all of a sudden, boom, dead. That was one of the I think that was the only thing that I was like, "Aw." In the movie, I was like, I wanted to see more.
Yeah, it was a little shocking, a little jarring, but the scene itself was a lot of fun. Just watching them come in one after another, and then slowly realizing like I was hired to take you out, and you were hired to take me out, and you were hired to, like one of us was going to survive at the end, and then we were all just going to die because they plan on just.
It was kind of like, yeah, it was. To me, it felt like the Dark Knight scene with the bank scene where they're just like, oh, I was hired to take you out. Oh, who's supposed to take out the driver? You know, like that whole, like, they're all supposed to take out one of them. You know,
Oh yeah, the
one,
Joker had kind of planned on them killing each other.
Yeah,
I forgot about that.
yeah. Except it wasn't successful, except with the Taskmaster.
Yeah, it was fun to watch them become a team over time in the movie. I really enjoyed that, and this one brought in the Sentry, which it's kind of funny. You have all these characters that are like, as they clearly said in the movie, none of us can fly. We all just punch and shoot, you know. And then Ghost keeps going, I can phase through walls, and like nobody's phased by that. Nobody cares, you know. But you have when Sentry comes out, and I've never seen this before. My wife actually cried in the middle of a Marvel movie. She watches them. I think she enjoys them, and I think she doesn't enjoy them as much as I do. But she goes because she knows I enjoy them. And this is the first time I've actually seen her cry and actually moved by the idea of depression and the power that the Void had over poor Bob. And so it's not a feeling that
Bob.
that's a feeling I can understand, but it's just something she connected with really well. And so I thought that was really neat to kind of have something like that to kind of connect to some folks that struggle with depression and those feelings. The concept of like you said, you know, you're like the power of friendship, but really it's like all Bob needed was somebody to show that they care about him, you know. And he had so many struggles with abusive family and just being used, obviously, over and over. So,
Yeah, I mean, and that's why he wanted to kill. What was it, Victoria? Is that her name?
yep.
Because he felt he's like, yeah, you're gonna just use me.
Not Victoria.
And you just said
Valentine.
Valentine. Okay, Valentine. I know it had a V in there somewhere, but yeah, I was like, oh yeah, that's definitely why he's gonna, you know, at least try and destroy her, because all those wounds from the past are gonna get, you know, are coming out like right there when he's like, nope.
Well, he wasn't just like suffering from depression, which is a valid part of what he was going through, but he was bipolar. And he made it very clear from the beginning is I have some really good days and I have some really bad days.
And if you want the hero, like at the end, he's like, if you want the hero, you got to have the bad guy too.
But he did the dishes. What a champ.
He did do the dishes. And you know what? If you do the dishes, you are a hero in my book.
It's funny that he can't get away from the name Bob, though, in any movies he's in, and it's his actual name.
Actor, his name is Robert. His actual, like, that actor's name is Robert. Yeah, he played Bob in, was it Maverick?
Yep.
Top Gun Maverick, yeah. Which I think is great.
Oh, man. So, I mean, overall, as a fancy man of your stature, would you recommend people go see Thunderbolts?
I do recommend it. There is a part when I saw it. There was a lady a couple seats away from me. That there was a part when Bob, aka the Sentry, vanished, like in the scene where he vanishes people.
Yep.
There was a little girl, like one of the first ones you see gets vanished is a little girl, and this lady, like a couple seats down, was just like, no! And I was like, I had figured out enough about the plot that I knew what was going to happen with that, because it shows enough in it. That I was like, okay, I know it's not what you think it is, but it was. Like, I was still shocked by that part. So but the whole movie, like, of the whole movie, that was the only part that I was like, oh my goodness. But that they redeem it, because it's like, no, because you think, like, it's supposed to, like, make it seem like, if you haven't seen the movie, spoiler, it makes it seem like everybody's dead, but they're not.
Accurate.
But I do recommend the movie. I recommend the movie. I do.
It's another sign that things are getting better. I think since Deadpool and Wolverine, it's just been a big jump to, oh, they're improving and they're working on things and they're going to improve it. So, because they had a few good movies in the past couple years, but then you go back and like Eternal stands out in my mind. Like I feel like we could have just not had that movie, and the plot.
And it would have solved a lot of problems that Captain America didn't have to resolve.
Yep. Well, even then, I feel like if you still wanted to do that movie, I think it would have almost been better to have it come out after this Captain America Brave New World movie, where it's kind of like the Black Widow, where you go back and you visit what was going on. So suddenly they're like, hey, what's this giant thing in the middle of the ocean? No one else knows but the Eternals. It's just suddenly adamantium's there, and it's like, hey, that looks like some sort of creature that came out of the ground. What's up with this? And then going back and doing Eternals and giving us that information, I think would have almost suited better to Marvel's needs. But here we are.
Yeah, I could go on a tangent about that movie, but I'm not going to.
That's fair. Not everybody's excited about Marvel movies like you and I are. So I enjoy them. Like Earth Twister said, he's been disappointed in Marvel, though hopefully Brave New World and Deadpool Wolverine turned that around for him as well. But
And Thunderbolts.
Yeah. Hopefully by now, well, he just had a baby, so I don't know when he's going to see Thunderbolts, but
Yeah, he probably hasn't seen it yet. We need to tell him not to listen to this episode.
hey, Earth Twister, don't listen to this episode.
There
Okay,
you go.
good. That was your warning, Earth Twister. Don't listen to this episode.
So let's actually talk about why we're actually here. What this episode is actually about. How
Yeah.
about that?
Yo-Yo Rodriguez, aka Slingshot. So we got a new ally in the Shield box recently, and I have, since her announcement, been pretty impressed with the concept and the idea of her character. And I really enjoyed her in the show Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., so I thought it would be fun to research her in the comics and just kind of see where she came from. In fact, I was kind of surprised because she appeared in the comics before she appeared in the show. And I felt like a lot of the folks that appeared in the show came in the comics afterwards, like Coulson, Fitz, and Simmons. But maybe as we do more research over time, we will discover that we were wrong. So I think I even told one of my friends the other night that Coulson's not even in the game yet, but that's wrong. Coulson's definitely in the game. But he's not a hero. I think that's what we were talking about. He's not a hero. He's just an ally.
Yeah, he's not an ally.
So I would love to. I know. Here we are. Last thing before we jump into Yo-Yo Rodriguez here. I am a little disappointed that we did not get Coulson's team as our 4 heroes in the Shield wave. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm excited about Silk. Shuri is pretty cool. Winter Soldier is going to be awesome. And Falcon's going to be good to have in the game. I'm just slightly disappointed that we didn't get, like, Coulson and a combo team pack of, like, Fitzsimmons, Slingshot, and Daisy. You know, like, I feel like they could have all deserved their own hero packs, and that would have been a lot of fun. But I can also see, as a marketing standpoint, if people don't know who they are, they're not going to sell.
They're trying to do the Thunderbolts.
What?
They're trying to do the Thunderbolts.
Yeah, they're all villains. Anyways.
I'm just saying. Anyways.
So Yo-Yo Rodriguez, aka Slingshot, she's really neat. She's a speedster whose powers fling her back to the starting point that she was at. So she can run out, do a thing, and the minute she stops moving, she is thrown back to her original position. This makes an assumption that she can only move for so long. So only move so far, and then she has to be pulled back to her spot. But really, it's the concept of as long as she's moving, she won't snap back to her original position. But like any other person, she's got a certain amount of stamina. She can only run so far for so long before she's snapped back to her spot. Interesting things, she's not a mutant or inhuman, which is where most of our powers come from in Marvel comics. If they're not like given super soldier serums or doing some sort of science experiment on them, they are a mutant or an inhuman. And it's assumed that her powers came from her father, who has mutated DNA. So her father is a guy known as the Griffin. He's a supervillain who I didn't really dive too much in his history, but apparently he had animal body parts grafted to his body and a mutation formula put into his body. So he's mutated into this crazy monster thing that looks like a griffin, and is a bad guy from Puerto Rico. So he fights superheroes. But I guess he's also like a gang leader, and then got these superpowers to try to be cool and get some superpowers. And there was not a lot on him, so I guess it didn't really work out in his favor. She is his daughter, so she grew up in San Juan, Puerto Rico. And when we meet her, she is actually recruited by Daisy Johnson to join Nick Fury's special strike force called the Secret Warriors team. This team is all children of different superheroes or supervillains, which is kind of cool. So it was kind of like another Young Avengers type thing that they were doing a lot of at the time in comics. Just a different team of heroes. And I think they were making a big push at that point in time, because I think Stan Lee was like, you guys know you can make up your own superheroes, right? Do that. That's what I did to make Marvel Comics. Now you guys make more superheroes. You don't have to keep bringing these heroes back to life and rehashing these heroes out over and over. And there's cool stories that come from somebody like Spider-Man, who has 7 different comics at the same time, rehashing his story over and over. But it was a big push, I think, at the time to like try to make your own superheroes. And I think we're seeing another wave of that with the X-Men. And even then, like, there's an announcement for what they call Avengers Academy, so a new set of Young Avengers coming out here soon. I think Champions did that for a little bit. So they're making a smaller push for it, but this was another one of those teams that was like children of supervillains or superheroes. So I thought that was pretty cool. She got trained as a SHIELD operative. They were brought together originally during Secret Invasion. Now here's the part that I thought was interesting, because Secret Invasion took place in the comics long before she made her debut in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show. And I just assumed that she was a part of the TV show. So it was neat to see that, oh no, like, I knew Daisy Johnson existed beforehand, but I did not realize that she also existed pretty early on in the comics. In fact, there's a lot of other heroes in the team that just didn't make it to the TV show, but made it but she was one of the ones that was selected. So I thought it was pretty cool. So they were put together during the Skrull Secret Invasion to kind of help take out the Skrulls that were coming in and replacing heroes and villains. And they're actually one of the key players in taking down the Skrulls' religious organization while the Secret Invasion was happening. I guess it made a big punch that impacted the Skrulls and changed them from being able to take over. They then, their next assignment was like a terrorist organization in Texas, and they were just supposed to observe them, and they ended up attacking him instead, and that battle cost her to lose her arms, and those arms were replaced with cybernetic arms. So she was able to pack a bigger punch now. So not only can she move super fast, but she's got these supercharged, powerful, prosthetic, cybernetic arms that she can punch really good with. And it was kind of traumatizing for her to go through all that surgery and stuff. But to help her through that trauma, her and another teammate, who I guess was also a child of a supervillain, they both confronted their parents, resolved some of those issues. So I guess they were able to prove themselves better than their supervillain parents. So, and grew from those. The last time we see our poor friend Slingshot, there's a period in the comics, and it's happened relatively recently, the past couple of years, where Red Skull traveled back in time and made Steve Rogers a secret operative for Hydra, and then came back to the present time and had him activate, so that Cap started doing some things, working for Hydra secretly to take over, so Hydra could take over things. Good old Red Skull messing with things that he shouldn't. In fact, at this point in the time in the comics, Doctor Doom has killed Red Skull officially. Straight up, Red Skull's dead. I don't know the exact things that led to that, but it's a Thunderbolt comic with Winter Soldier leading the Thunderbolts, and they, instead of taking Red Skull to prison, they took Red Skull to Doctor Doom before Doctor Doom took over the entire world, and Doctor Doom killed Red Skull. Just straight up killed him. So, anyhow,
boom,
so
you're
Cap
dead.
was an evil villain.
Boom,
You're dead. So, as we mentioned, Cap was a supervillain for the secret agent of Hydra, and sent this team of operatives that Nick Fury had put together at the time years ago, and that was a special strike force, and sent them off to go on a mission to keep an eye on Adelan, where the Inhumans live. And while there, she was killed by the leader of the Wrecking Crew, the Wrecker, because Cap sent it was an ambush, had the Wrecking Crew attack them, and she was killed off by the Wrecker. So that's kind of a bummer, because you'd think the Wrecker, who's just got super strength and a crowbar, was able to kill off a magic crowbar. Excuse me, was able to kill off a speedster, but here we sure are. So yeah, that was her. How was her comic book history? I thought she was an interesting character, and I would like to go back and read some of the story arc she was in, just because I really enjoyed her in the TV series, and I feel like she dying to the Wrecker doesn't really give her justice. So to honor her as a character, go back and read where she came from. But why don't you describe the card, Levi, and then we can kind of discuss further.
Yeah, so at the top of her card it says Slingshot, Yo-Yo Rodriguez. Her text, she is a shield spy. Her action is you spend an energy resource. It says A, like singular, A, energy resource. Put Slingshot into play from your hand under any player's control. At the end of the phase, if Slingshot is still in play, return her to your hand. So that seems pretty cool.
What kind of ally is she? And does she have thwart and attack and any health points?
Yeah. So she's a 3-cost ally. She has 2 thwart and 2 attack. She has 3 HP. Like I said, she's a shield spy. Her artwork is where she's standing far in the background, but she's also standing in the foreground where she's got these cool cybernetic arms, these metallic arms, and it looks like she's punching. She has just punched, actually. Like, she's gone through the motion. She's punched an AIM agent, and like he's falling backwards, and his helmet's kind of busted up a little bit, and she looks really mad when she's doing it. So it looks really cool. And she's got this cool purple suit on, and her hair's like flying in the air. I think it's
like
cool.
A blue shield colored suit, I thought, but maybe it's purple.
I am colorblind, so...
Oh. That is new information for me. It is a leadership card as well, which I thought was cool. No flavor text, though, so... Wow.
Well, I mean, does it need a flavor text?
Oh, yeah, I was like, bam, I got you, or... Way what they way, something. But
yeah, that's her card. That's what her card looks like.
Hey, thank you so much for describing that card there, Levi. I appreciate that. It is going to be... She's pretty cool. Do you feel like, based on just what we're seeing in the card here and how her card plays, which is, again, you're spending a resource to put her out into play, and then she returns to your hand, so you can put her almost in any spot on the table, and then she comes back to your hand afterwards. Do you feel like she fits her comic book history theme?
Yeah, I think she fits. I think she does. I think she fits her powers very well. I do. What do you think?
I feel like the theming is pretty cool, where it's almost like you just exactly like her in the comics, where she snaps right back into your hand. So,
and here's my thing about it is that it says you spend it says a energy resource, so you don't even spend all 3 to put her on the board. You spend a.
Exactly. She comes out onto the table. The only downfall is right? Is that she's coming back to your hand. So every turn to get her out on the table, you're spending another lightning resource to get her on the table.
Correct. But if that's what it costs to do that every time, is that so bad?
It's actually not. I was watching one of our fellow YouTubers, Solo Marvel Champion, and he was using her in a Captain Marvel deck. And I was talking to him about it a little bit, and it was just interesting in the fact that I was like, wow, you're spending her every turn. He goes, yeah, but if you think about it, you draw up to 5. After you draw up to 5, then she returns to your hand. So now you have 6 cards in your hand. So even if you don't use her again the next turn, you've gained an extra card On top of that, generally, most of the time when you're playing this game, you have one extra lightning resource just sitting around, or one extra resource half the time sitting around that you can use to put her into play. You can't use Helicarrier to get her out because it impacts the cost. You can't use it to spend as a resource. But something like X-Jet or Helicarrier, that is a wild resource.
You just said Helicarrier.
Quincarrier, thank you. X-Jet or Quincarrier, that's a wild resource. And you pop it just to give her that chance to come onto the table is huge. Not only was he doing that with her, he was also using cards like Inspire. So she would come out, she would activate, he would play Inspire to ready her and heal her of a damage, and she would activate again. So now you're spending a resource for 4 damage, which is really good value in the long term. And then if you have other abilities, other cards in the future that you could essentially use her to impact. So there's some cards that, like, if you have a certain amount of allies on the table, it does this special thing. For an effective 1 cost to get her on the table to do that, or to help another teammate activate that type of a thing, is a pretty cool deal. So, yeah. What do you think about her uses? Do you like it? Do you think it's a cool card to try? And would you try to play her? I know you don't play leadership much, but
Correct. I typically don't play leadership, but she would be good in a deck like an Adam Warlock deck because I've been playing.
Oh, there you go.
But yeah, like I think she would be great in any leadership deck. That's awesome. Like as soon as I don't think I've ever really looked at this card until today, literally today. But yeah, like as soon as I read the text, I was like, oh, that's awesome. Like that would be really great to have that.
Would you build an entire deck around her, or would you just have her as a key piece into your deck?
I don't know. I mean, she would be a key piece, and I would probably try to put a lot of energy resource cards into my deck for that, but I wouldn't be like build it completely around it. I would try to do that, but I wouldn't make it like the whole purpose of the deck.
Right. I think she would sit well in like a using Suit Up to pull her into your hand. So now you just have her for the entirety of the rest of the game. Just something you can constantly pop out.
Yeah.
So, cool. I think she's got some great uses. And I haven't had a chance to play her yet. Have you?
No. Like I said, today was the first time I've ever... I mean, I've like seen it, but I haven't like actually like looked at it.
This is your first time actually investigating this card in general, then. So, I've only seen it played a few times. I have actually, if I'm honest, I still have Maria Hill on the table behind me where I test decks out sometimes, and I've not even bothered to take her kit apart yet. She's on a list of characters I want to try, and Slingshot comes in her quote unquote kit in Marvel Champions, and so I have not had a chance to test that out yet.
That's fair.
Well, cool. Well, any other thoughts on this card? It feels like a relatively short time talking about this card, but it's kind of nice having a history that's not super long or drawn out. But do you have any other thoughts on it?
I don't. I think it's not before I give my score.
Sounds good.
No more thoughts until I give my score.
What's your score there then, Levi? How would you rate this fancy character in your fancy animal rating system?
Yeah, so if I remember correctly, and I don't remember where and which one it was, but one of my cards earlier that I rated was a hawk. And that's how I would rate Slingshot. Are you pulling that up right now?
I actually did not know. No, I did not write it down which one you wrote as a hawk, if I am honest.
Oh, well, if I remember right, one of them was a hawk. And that's how I would rate Slingshot. I'm going to reuse an animal. Bum, bum, bum.
Whoa, this is our first time seeing you reuse an animal. Why would you rate her as a hawk?
But yeah, I would rate her as a hawk because, I mean, for one, she goes in super fast, can do something cool, and then she comes right back. Like a hawk. Like, it seems like an awesome, awesome card where, like I said, you spend one energy resource and you put her on the table. Like once she's in your hand, if you play it right, she can be in your hand, or she can be on the table pretty much the entirety of the rest of the game. It's just like boom, 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 like down, back, down, back, down, back, down, back. A lot. And it's not going to cost a whole lot, which is awesome, as long as it's the right resource. And yeah, if you have the right cards out, you can have support cards and upgrade cards out there that would pay for that. And so if you played it right, like, she could do so much. So I rate her as a hawk.
I'll give her a 4.5 stars as my Yelp review, and I would say that she is exactly as advertised. Would be the quote that came with that Yelp review. Came exactly as advertised. And so I think it's great that she comes in and out of your hand. I think it's great that she can be an asset to not only you. I'm curious to see her in a multiplayer setting where she goes out and you can put her on other people on the table and how that would impact other people's game.
Yeah, you could help others. Yeah, I think that's really cool too.
Which is super awesome. And so I just don't know. I can't think of cards off the top of my head to be like, hey, do you need Slingshot out your area to get a buff for blank card or whatever that you have? And I feel like there's got to be some sort of cards of, if you have this many allies on the table, da 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 da, you know?
Yeah, it could also be you already have your ally limit out and you can put it on somebody else's.
Oh, that's true. So to kind of help still have it come out, just that other, and have that other person do a call to action to do a thing with them. That's a good point. I didn't think about that. That's a really good point. And then there's other cards like exhaust as many allies on your table and combine all their attack together or whatever to do a thing. So you could help boost up somebody else's attack. So you do the ping damage and then you have a boosted attack for somebody else. There's just lots of little things that she could do. I feel like she's a very useful card, and I think, honestly, at this point in the game, we've only just scratched the surface of what she can do. And putting her in a deck with the Maria Hill ally, so you're putting a shield deck together, she could really come out and do a bunch of things, and Maria Hill's drawing cards for you at the same time. And then playing cards that cause them both to ready to do extra activations, so you're cycling through characters. That's actually sounds like a lot of fun. We'll have to test her out, and the next time we play Marvel Champions together, I might even throw her in your favorite Cyclops decks that I play, where I become the leader and I get to choose to go first. And
Please don't. Not only am I first, now I'm gonna play to your ally limit. Ha ha.
I'm first in here. I'll give you a thing you can do on your turn. Levi, you can use Slingshot.
But I have to have a turn to use that.
Oh, yeah.
You know
let
that.
Let me have my first turn first, and then we'll go from there. Oh, man. But, hopefully by the time it might be. By the time we record our next episode, we'll either have faced our final villain in that campaign boss in Sinister Motives, or about to face him. So either way, hopefully you'll get some good stories of us facing Venom Goblin for the first time. So, all right. Well, anything else you'd like to share, Mr. Lewis, before we say goodbye to our 6 listeners?
That you're a cotton-headed ninny muggins.
Thank you. Just a small reminder. I'm sure we said it at the beginning of this episode, and I may have cut it out at that point. But we will have a new guest star joining us, hopefully for a couple episodes, if not at least one episode. So when you hear a new voice next episode, you will hopefully appreciate what you hear. They are a doctor, so they are pretty cool. At least that's what they keep telling us.
They're okay.
I agree. We'll have to. I can't wait to hear their origin story, and we'll have some questions to ask them. So hopefully you'll get a chance to know them almost as well as you know us. So.
Their origin story? Are they a hero?
No, they're an ally like us, silly. But even allies have origin stories. So,
and it all comes together.
All right. Well, let's sign out.
Oh, this is the sign out time?
This is the sign out time, yep.
Watch out for those wombats out there.
And
I'm Levi Lewis.
And of course, next time we'll be deadly serious next time. Peace.